I got it? Sorry. I'm Svante Schubert still, thanks. I'm delighted to be here. Since '99, I'm working on Office formats, and this is my personal definition of done, right? So I asked myself, there was the ACM conference of document engineering last time in Berlin, last year, and I had a lightning talk about this in a poster session, and I was previously asking myself, how can I summarize all this? What are the problems I faced, right? When I can say, okay, now I do something else. I do machine learning. I don't care about Office formats. It's already all done. I cannot do it any better, right? So this is my the goal, the final goal, and you see by the title that I'm a little bit cautious about my delivery dates. And I want to ask you to make this happen because it's more about tooling, it's more about concept, it's not about killing your beloved formats like HTML, PDF, DocBook. It's more about taking over concept from LaTeX to in a single thing. And I like to offer you a concept that I gathered in the past 20 years. So it's about, I like to focus on three things, right? There are many challenges, but one, and that's the main topic, is about collaboration. This have to be in the file format by design and not as an afterthought, like it's currently the thing. The next thing is about, I call it agile standardization. It's standards are the blueprints, like a cooking recipe for cake. It's the blueprint for software, right? And if there's a blueprint for software, then it should be in the agile process. Software is being delivered every day, every week, every minute, and a standard usually 18 months, right? So it doesn't work out so much. And the only way to fix this is to automate this, right? And to make it machine readable, but the main trick is to generate the standard, okay? So, and the last thing, of course, is reactive interoperability layout by design. PDF has now the idea, because they're losing market and mobile space, to put in HTML within the PDF, which is, yeah, I don't state about this, but there might be better things to do, right? And we have tech, but it's hard to get it sold to my mother, for instance, and there's some usability problems from the 80s, and we have to come together and put them all together. That's the main idea. So the first idea is about the first challenge, collaboration. And what I'm asking here is, I want to work with, let's say, all of you, with multiple people, on a single document. We have to deliver a contract tomorrow, right? And I send it to you, and we want to work with different applications, Google Docs, Emacs, XML editors, whatever, okay? So this is the challenge. And why is it a challenge? Because all of these formats are usually from the 80s, right? PDF was made for printing, and I was sitting next to the Adobe inventor a few years ago, and he mentioned, yes, structure was an afterthought, right? It wasn't in the idea, in the mindset. So, so it was for document formats, right? Office, ODF, and OXML, they both have change tracking, but what they actually do is they mark the area that you're changing, and you can reject it, right? You can throw it away. But it's hard. They don't know what the change is. So, and the reason for this is simply the requirements were different at that time. We have floppy disk, yes. I used floppy disks exchanging games at school, on the schoolyard. And the modem was sometimes on because it was too expensive. And nowadays we have email and cloud. Well, yeah, that's making it a lot faster. But the only thing is we just only have faster floppy disk. We are not merging. We are not solving the problem of, let's do the contract till tomorrow, here are my copies, right? Please co-work and we merge on it. So all comes down to a single question that we have to answer. What have you changed? Because if I would work with any of you and we'd work on paper, I would call you and say, okay, Tony, what have you changed, right? And the thing is, when you make it on your mind, you would usually say, my mother would answer, okay, there's a table, then there's an image, and there's a paragraph, yes? And then there's the third character I've deleted, right? And that's something that we usually exchange. This is the semantic level. It's not the syntax level. She doesn't know anything about that. So now I solved this. Well, I wrote an application for ODF. I reverse engineering, refactoring ODF. I can do it with any format, right? This is one of the concepts. So on the left side, there is just a simple test document. On the right side, there's just a snippet of it. It's, by the way, it's the ACM poster. You see, I overtook this. It's the ACM poster. And every line is a change, right? So I transformed basically the zip document, the zipped XML, to a list of changes, right? It's equivalent. And why am I doing this? This is the software. We called it Adobe F sponsored by the Prototype Fund, and there's soon a version. Because zipping software, zipping documents, right, and exchanging those is like software developers who are zipping the source code repositories and sending those and say, hey, my changes are in. Yes, you can take a look at it. And it's incredible. It doesn't answer what have you changed and merge it back. So this is the realm, this is the gate to enter, think of Stranger Things, or the realm of the changes, right? If you're in the realm of changes, there are other concepts, okay? And we have to leave this 80s concept of zipped things, of final state only. There are more than this, okay? So this is the idea. We stop exchanging documents. Similar like software developer, exchanging commits, yes, which are line-based changes, which don't work for zipped XML. We are going to exchange semantic changes on the semantic object I talked yesterday about. So there's like the guy from LibreOffice here insert a new fourth paragraph, and the guy from the ODF application Word is insert a second one, and this is exchanged. So there might be, and now there have to be a merge from the Google Docs guys, yeah. So, and I'll tell you later how it works. Just an example of semantic thing. As I said, this is, for instance, a simple document. It's a table, an image, and a world, right? Where the W we have marked, and this is just an example for semantic tree. And like, if any Emacs user would like to edit with me, that's possible, right? We now, an Emacs user can, if you license changes, can work on a full feature specification document or contract without breaking it, because he only sees what he knows, and he will not see the image, likely not the table unless he's emulating it by CSV, but he can edit and change the W and send it back to me, for instance, any text, right? And it's merged back in without destroying any unknown feature because we know exactly where it's going, okay? So the Emacs is cool and exciting, but we can do it different. We can also have HTML, right? This is like Google Docs does it all the time. CK Editor 5 is a Polish editor, maybe somebody knows it. And with 4 to 5, they do it completely right because they embrace changes by design, right? Because they say we're getting insane by taking control of changes without having this concept within an application. And because there are no such thing as ODF, there's a subcommittee of changes, right, at ODF, but there's no such thing as a standard change yet, so there have to be a feature dialect because they do not match. And I tested it. You can download it on my GitHub, and within the HTML, there's JavaScript, which is the editor, right? And if I edit it, this is coming out. I just edited event listener, so you can see here, they're starting with 0, and I personally start with 1, like XML does, because it's closer to the human semantics. So in the first paragraph, I inserted the 7th character called an X. It's an insert operation. And here, in the first paragraph, from the 4th to 8th character, I make it italic, okay? So these are 2 operations which are very similar to the one that we used for ODF. So we can collaborate. We can work together, okay? Some basics. So it's easy. You're working on the 3rd paragraph, somebody else inserted the 2nd one, you're moving down, right? I call it like the shell game. Where's my change? Where's my change? But there are other things, like there are many ways to create a document. Like we have A, B, C here. You can start, oh, there's a first user, he's pressing A. He presses B, he presses C. That's the usual way to do it. But there might be someone else starting, oh, I start with C. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot the B. It's coming before. Oh, the A as well. So in the end, we have 2 different ways of expressing the same document. And you're asking yourself, well, they're actually semantic the same. So it should be possible to transform one to the other. And of course you can do. The fine thing, we just use atomic operations, which is the switch of 2 operations which are in close together, yes? So you see, the C have to go to the bottom somewhere. And by doing this, because there's a time flow, we use some kind of time travel. And remember what I told you some slides earlier, when somebody inserted something in front of you, or above you, then you're being moving around. So in this time, because C was now inserted afterwards, B is in front, and the position changed, right? It goes down, and you do it one. So after a few things, a few steps, right, it's more than a bubble sort. There are more better algorithms, right? But this is a search, and you can normalize it, right? Like the left side. And this, if you this is similar to a document. You can remove the add, you can remove the positions, and you would have something similar to a file format, right? A file format basically is similar to a set of operations, just normalized. Okay, so how about deleting something, right? And I personally think of a stack of card games, right? And you can only, rule of the game, you should only take the, I wanted to say, does anybody has an idea about it? Okay, not without coffee. So we wait, I ask you after the coffee break and I'll give the answer now. So if you do it simply out, this is the intuitive thing, I take the B out. It won't work, right? Because there's a gap, right? There have to be a sequence there. So what you're doing is, you remove it to the end of the document, okay? So there's 1, 2, and 2, and now you can take away 2 without, there's OT. This is kind of OT here. Sorry. So now you got it done. But you must, well, put the inverse operation here. So a former colleague, Florian Reuter, who's now doing a lot of iPad visualization stuff, he said, oh, guys, you just reinvented OT, and yes, so he pointed me to that. But OT is also about merge, and there's what they did wrong, I believe, because I believe they didn't use Git at that time. So this is more the blockchain mode, like you can track everything. It's just like undo, redo, and you save it still, right? I used to say, if I write a love letter, then it might take hours for a first paragraph, and you can have all the tracks with it, but usually you don't like to send it, okay? So you would go for the normalized version. And that's what I'm trying to say. If you have, I wanted to do a lot of, I could have done a lot of more slides, but let's do it very simple here. In Git, software develop is very easy. Yes? Let's say there are 2 developers, one going to the ocean, one to the mountain, and there's one server in the office. The one from the ocean comes back first, and he's pushing his changes, because if we are working alone on a document, just like you work on a branch, right? Every change is a new commit. And you take your branch and commit it to the master, right? The next one is coming in the office, and I cannot push because it has changed. He has to pull first, right? And move his changes back into it, okay? So in the paper that is in the ACM, it's on the GitHub server, it's written in detail, but it's not magic, it's not rocket science, it's just overtaking the Git concept to applying this operation transformation. So there's a subcommittee, and yes, I became a chair, a king with our land. I did a proposal that won against Delta XML and Microsoft XML because I don't want to solve change tracking alone. I said, when we do change tracking, right, we should solve this whole thing. We should solve coloration as well. And the key ideas were simple. If we want to track changes, we should simply define what a change is beforehand, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make sense tracking something which, okay. It doesn't make sense tracking something which we are not aware of. And another thing, currently everything is the document, right? If I want to know what you are changed, I would have to read the full document. It doesn't make sense either. So instead, it should be able to point to the document. Like you're a famous author and you have a book on your server, and I'm a reader and you have it read-only. And I want to tell you, oh, in the 1 minute thing that's a paragraph, the second character is a delete, right? A character mistake. Typo. So I give you something like a pull request, yes? And you can decide then, oh, I take it, I don't take. But to be able to do this, I have to make this distinct. I have to be able to count these things. And this counting is on the semantic tree and not on the syntax. So there's a reference implementation soon, but this subcommittee is currently on hibernation because, there's too little implementation. So what's next? I'm going to this ODF toolkit release, this ODF Thomas about, and yes, as soon as I'm ready, I want to exchange it again because it's manually written in 4 years, and I must admit, after I finished the work, I said, oh, I could have done better. So I would like to generate the things, and the reason I want to generate it is because if I generate it from a description, declarative way, like and is procedural, I did it like the and way, and I want to do the Maven way, like I want to describe what is a semantic in the grammar. That's why the reason I did do all the graph stuff yesterday. And I want to tell, okay, there's a table. How can I alter it? Oh, there's insert row, right? What happens? How can I map each parameter to XML node changes, okay? So in the end, I would just want to generate software because I want to, of course, have this in Java and Rust. And as I said, if we want to have agile specifications where we can generate things, we have to go this way, okay? And it's nothing new. I'm just reverse engineering. Everybody has a table. Everybody knows there's an injured row, yes? Expect to make characters bold or italic, right? We doesn't have specified it yet. It's just simply underspecified in all the formats. It's all the formats, yes? So we need to generate a change specification now. And it's nothing new. We generated as well. This is from the ODF specification here. Wonderful HTML, I generated it, I told you yesterday. But what's missing, you might say, see, is from the grammar, there's no choice, there's no optional, and there's no sequence within. So we're missing some relax and G here, and I try to overdo it, at least for 1.4, yes. And you know this hash here? It's called a fragment identifier. Every MIME type can have it. And I just stumbled over 2008, I wanted to have by implicit fragment identifier on a semantic level. Like if you have a presentation, there should always, #7 means 7th slide, go for it. On a spreadsheet, you should be able, without putting IDs there, just, go to B5 to C7, there's my data, right? And send it around like pointers to the document, inner pointers, which are implicit. And, or every header, there's a huge HTML document, and then I make Chrome inspect source. Is there any anchor I can reference? No, it's not, right? No, the headings are not by things. This should be done by ELF formats as well. Go more to the semantics. So, there's one thing I would like to talk about. It's for the schematron guys. I told you about yesterday there's the high-level semantic definition of things, and there are 2 XML grammars mapped for this. And we have schematrons for this, right? But we did it duplication of code here. And you know, it's smelly to have duplicated things. So why not doing things like, I made it up here, but it's especially like order date have to be for invoice date, okay? So, but if such a thing is, why not define this on a semantic level and generate it now to the both XML ways, right? Schematron is fine, but we should be able to abstract on a semantic level. It makes it easier to read as well. So I want to have tooling that is able to load schematron on a semantic level. I edit it and save it back again, okay? So there's a lot, and I want to, by the way, with schemas the same way, grammars, right? XML grammars. So maybe if we want to have this tooling, might be to condense the toolkit, so like only have relax and G or XSD being mapped into it. So because in the specifications, you want to only support the last specification version. No, it doesn't scale if I have 100 versions of ODF and you have to implement everything. There's only the last one, and there's open transformations between all of them, okay? So I have to be able to ask, what is the difference between this? What has changed in the XML schema, and this does not have to be on XML level, but on the feature level. I might tell in the end if I got some time. So this is how they do it. And it's a wonderful way. It's very simple. It's a paragraph. There are legal wars about this, right? Because ISO, SAN, in this time SAN, they said, it's meant to be all open source, right? All the schema validation artifacts have been open source. And it was funded by European money on the EU level. But then the SAN, right, they have no publishing of this invoice standard. So give it to national standard bodies. And all of a sudden, the standard of invoices, 9 PDF, cost 1,300 or 100 euro, right? For 9 PDFs, print once, one person only. And if you want to delay electronic invoicing, getting rid of papers, it's the exactly way how to do it, to put a price tag in. So I consider SAN, ISO, and national standard bodies evil. Oh, no, not I. Somebody said it, and I just, okay. No, but it's not scaling here, yes? So this is public, and it's forbidden. We used to laugh and said, that's the law, the specification that should not be named, because somebody was suing, Italy was suing the national body who were using it, referencing it, and because it's just one person and one print only, you can't refer to it. It was crazy. It's crazy. Standards should be open, and it's like these standardization bodies are just between knowledge and us, right? Same applies for research magazine papers. Anyway, so going back, semantic, left side, syntax, right side. And there's always a mapping, right? What I said, it's these dots between the semantic and the graphs, right? There's one document for UBL XML and the other document for CI unit CFACT XML, okay? And you see a few things. And you got hundreds of pages of table and you receive it as PDF. What can you expect 1,100 euros? So what you have to do is, if you want to implement it, you copy paste everything from this table into your software. Horrible. So I joined this Dean, right? So I paid their 1,300 euro for 3 months. So I get my access to the Office format, which is structured in opposite to PDF, and I was able to write an extractor. So, and the first thing I do, I was saving it to XML because it's wonderful semantically. I still love XML, yes, but and it shows you what the runtime was, what you missed your runtime now. There are some nulls in there, so and that's what you should be doing. And this thing, instead of extracting it, I'm now trying to become an editor of one of the procurement things to push the data into the tables the first hand, right? And I wanted to add this as within the PDF zip, this XML I extracted, but it seems like Dean would like to sell the publication twice, once as data as a service or software as a service, and the other thing as a PDF. Okay. So, long story short, semantic, this is possible mapping it to XML, and it should be machine readable. So, that's what I earlier said. There's this time gap, and the only way to overcome this time trap of gap of agile development and the blueprint is to make it machine readable. But the trick is not to really make it machine readable, but to generate it in the first place. Okay, yeah, that's it. And of course, the test confirmation has to be on the specification level. I'm aware only of the JPEG standard or ISO level that has these tests at the specification level. I was once the W3C as mobile editor because they needed someone doing the work as a junior, and I was in the W3C compound document format and also an ISO level. And I'm not sure where, but they said, those tests don't belong here. We don't tell why, we just tell do it, okay? I'm not sure might change this, right? So I want to have tests and conformance like the asset tests. I love them. You open a document and see instantly if the application is applying it, yes? Or I love, can I use .com? It should be part of the standardization, right? And if I want to buy a toaster, I look at this some kind of table, and I want to make deciding a document application as easy as buying a toaster, right? And there should be test read. Maybe you can make the certification for cost the monies because we need money for standardization. I just had an CSS mobile editors and we're lacking of tests and, there's always lack of work. There's so much work on specification, but the bigger companies are only taking, usually, not always, but somehow the ecosystem is not fully functioning. So, in the end, there should be an ISO standard, that's an old slide, but it works with, we have Oasis, ODF specification, so free, and then it goes by FastPath for ISO, right, can be used by governments, but you can always look at the totally similar Oasis spec. That's the work, how it works with ODF, okay? So we have the collaboration API, of course, that's what we already have, the CLI syntax, and we have this reactive interoperability layout, which is, I don't have time to really work into this, but as I said, PDF is, we somehow have to make this happen. And, one idea maybe is the language server protocol. That is what Visual Studio Code, Eric Gamma and one of the 3 amigos is doing in Switzerland. Instead of everybody has like JavaScript, Python, Java has to be implemented by every editors, they now have a server protocol, the functionality in the one, like doing now completion, diagnostic, hover over formatting definition, and Eclipse has the Wild Web Developer project, and they overtook all the HTML, CS work in 1 year from Visual Studio Code, but just by implementing their functionality. And there was a nice, on the FOSDEM conference, it's a nice dev room, and there might be slides on this. This might be even something where we can do algorithms of layout or something. I'm not sure about this. It's beside this. So the very last thing is about the difference between the user view and the syntax view, and this is the most complex example I have. A paragraph, a table, you can do page orientation change, right? It can be landscape or portrait. And as a viewer, I would say, okay, there's just this feature, user, I change the paragraph, now the orientation. It can only be horizontal, vertical, it's like a Boolean flag. It's easy, right? But if you go there, this is the paragraph, it goes to the style is the content XML, goes then to a master page layout. The master page layout goes to the page properties, and there is the actual value. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say boilerplate, but implementation details, and I would like to declare this, and I would like to generate this. Like, I don't want to implement this all by hand over and over. I think that's all. So to remember, we need to have cross-format, cross-application, offline collaboration. It can work for every format. We have to declare semantics in the change APIs, and it's a very must-have to have machine-readable specs or generate the specification. So, and we can do this by modularizing decentralized editor functionality, of course, like language server protocols. So, remember, we love XML, but syntax is volatile. Go for semantics. Embrace semantics. Thank you for listening. Is there time for questions?
Yeah, there is time for questions. So, anyone? Tamir, over there.
Thank you for your talk, Svante. You were talking about layout being interoperable and reactive, and I wonder if you've dealt with the problem that a document, say HTML, on your system might not, even if you had the same fonts and everything, not display exactly the same as it would do on somebody else using a different browser. Is this something you dealt with?
Yes, of course. So first of all, Microsoft once played the game with fonts. Is with every new Office format, there came a new font library. So it's like chasing the we have a tail, the rabbit and the eel, right? The rabbit is Microsoft is moving on and on. So you have to change the rules of the game, basically, right? So there was the liberation fonts from Red Hat, and I think we should define by default a few standards. Nowadays, at PDFA, you always embed all the fonts, and why can't we say there are some fonts that are as a system and we don't have to append them? If you take a liberation font, it will be there, yes, spare this. So there is a problem with fonts. And the second thing, because we want to be fast, we use system libraries, and that's my friend from Roger told me, is that we have different system libraries on Mac, Linux, and Microsoft. And as long nobody comes along with a lot of money, that's the reason why it's put in the very end, and change this to one library, right, to rule them all. We only have to do some normalization on this. It doesn't work, because actually Mozilla Firefox, for instance, Times New Roman, 7 fonts had a Linux different layout than on the Microsoft due to the system calls. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Svante, Mohamed Zargawi, I have a question. It seems like you don't like standardization body. No, I mean the people you're citing. It's not you. I understand.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
But what's very interesting is that if you read this summary, is more or less the first user who needs that is exactly standardization body, because they're producing collaborative documents with changing all the time and all that stuff. So,
exactly.
So how do you manage this conundrum, okay? This strange.
So first of all, I love standardization. I like blueprints. I like not open source is not open enough. We have to be something above, like a blueprint we agree on, where we can agree on how the behavior is, right? So if you buy a cake, you want to be certain that it tastes a certain way. Yeah. So, but I don't like the money thing that's currently on. That's the one thing I didn't like. And the last thing is, ISOs, I digged a bit of it, and ISO's working now on machine-readable standards, and they do something like custom XML word you once used, but it took it away because of a Canadian patent, and they're now starting it over again. But just like they're using the smallest fix available for them for fulfilling their things, and yeah. I think I do a startup and sell it to them. I'm not sure. Maybe I can reach and fix the problems that yeah. Yeah, but I love standards. Yes, I do. I just don't like the way paying for them, how we do it the way now we do. All right. Any further questions, by the way? Yeah. I'm here till tomorrow.
The last question from Liam.
Yeah, Liam Quinn, Delightful Computing.
Hey.
Hi down there, yeah. Just a quick note, you mentioned every document format should give, in XML at least, should give IDs to headers so you can point to them.
The last thing, every document should be?
The document formats should define IDs for headers, section headers, so that you can point into them, and other parts in the document, presumably. And I might be fading in and out a bit. I might have missed a bit of it or misunderstood. But I wanted to point out that, for example, libxml supports xpointer, which is a fragment identifier you can use that goes to any place in the document you can define with xpath, which is anywhere.
Is it working for HTML? Because every MIME type has defined. Yes, I wasn't aware. Okay, you show me.
Okay,
soon.
Depends what you. We can talk later. The short answer is yes, but it needs a long answer because the HTML MIME type says they're just IDs.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to put them implicitly in there, right? It's like the famous author, that's a reason for IDs as well. If there's a famous author and I want a reference to it, I might put IDs on every possible thing and blow up the document. And instead of we do conventional configuration, we have we agree on a certain pattern how the semantics are, and put this on compile time to the spec instead of at runtime adding them explicitly.
Okay, thank you very much again.
Thank you.